how can I gain 10k followers on LinkedIn?
See, I'll give you a practical roadmap or a step-by-step process that you can follow.
How can one get connected with the top companies recruiters? What's the best time to post on LinkedIn, or how many times we should post on LinkedIn? How do you decode this strategy?
I think, see, there is no strategy. And when I say this, a lot of people think कि ये झूठ बोल रही है or she doesn't want to tell people or it's a secret.
Today we have the founder of Dhairya Decodes, Miss Dhairya Gangwani. So welcome Dhairya to our podcast. So can you just tell me something about yourself?
Sure. Firstly, thank you so much for having me here, Harshita. And I'm really excited for the conversation we're going to have. For the audience who probably don't know of me, I am the founder of Dhairya Decodes, as Harshita mentioned. I'm also a career coach and an educational content creator. I have been creating content on LinkedIn for the past 3.5 years or so, close to about 4 years now. And via my initiative of Dhairya Decodes, I've been able to impact over 10,000 plus students and working professionals so far with anything related to career development and upskilling. And I worked with more than 600 plus colleges and corporates to train them and upskill their employees and students. So that's a little bit about what I do. And apart from that, LinkedIn is where I would say I have grown, and that is what people know me for. Whether it is helping founders scale their personal brand on LinkedIn or being a LinkedIn top voice myself, most of the work that I do is centered around LinkedIn as a platform, and I think we're going to talk a lot about it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty much about it. Rest you will know during the course of the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my first question would be, can you tell us more about your career journey and how do you think of this to build your personal brand on LinkedIn?
Sure. So I think, see, Harshita, when I got into college, I studied at VIT Vellore. I did my EC engineering from there. I am a 2020 pass out. So I passed out almost 4 years ago. And when I decided to do EC engineering there, when I was making that choice also, my parents wanted me to do computer science engineering because it has better options, better pay packages, and the top companies hire computer science and software engineers when they come from a CSIT background. Now, that was the only logic they had. And at that point of time, I was very sure, even as, a 17-year-old, that coding is something I was not interested in. And I didn't want to do it, even if it paid me a good amount of money. But I didn't know why I chose EC engineering, because out of all the other options, मुझे बस लगा कि okay, I can do EC engineering, so I chose it. By the end of first year, I was doing very well. I was amongst the top 5 in my class. I was getting a very good CGPA also. I liked the subjects. I was understanding everything. But I realized that I am not enjoying it as much that I'll be able to pull it off as a profession. So I started thinking at the end of first year itself, do I envision myself and see myself working on chips and hardware as a hardware engineer at a Qualcomm or these top, EC, core engineering companies. And I couldn't see myself there. Now the other route, when you don't see yourself doing your core engineering stream, is sab bhag ke software engineering nahi jate. There's no other option. But that though was clear from the very beginning. That's the reason I didn't choose CSE and IT. That's when I came to a point where I realized I need to make a choice now, and I can neither choose CSE IT nor do I want to do core EC. So kya kare? That's when I realized that I'm interested in management.
Okay.
Now, if you want to get into management, you typically have to do an MBA to get into management. That is how it is. So all of my friends and mentors also told me that Dhairya, you are an engineering student. You've not even entered your second year. If you want to get into management, आपको MBA करना ही पड़ेगा. And I told them that मुझे MBA नहीं करना क्योंकि मेरे पास option भी नहीं है. And without doing an MBA, I want to get into management. There must be some way. But everybody told me there's no way. Then I realized that if you don't have a degree, what is it that I can have that management firms would still hire me? So it was exposure, experience, or skills.
You're right.
So how do you get exposure, experience, skills? I thought as a second year engineering student, I should do internships. And that is when I started applying to internships in my second year itself.
Okay.
And I got rejected by about 60 plus companies to get my first internship. By the end of my fourth year, I had done 25 plus paid internships in college.
Wow.
In all areas: sales, operations, consulting, content writing, to anything that you can think of, business development, marketing, social media. I've done it all. Because management is a vast field, right?
Right.
अब मैंने ये तो choose कर लिया था. I had chosen my path that I want to get into management. But what under management do you want to do? You have to choose that also, because management is wide. So I thought, again, my logic worked this way. let's take practical experience in each field, and then I'll figure out by the end of 2 years, जब 4th year में आ जाऊंगी, that which field am I interested in. Those 25 internships were my playing ground, and by the time I came to the 4th year when the placement season began, I realized I'm good with anything to do with people, where I can speak, so where my communication skills are at the forefront. Second, where I have to engage with people, right? Not just speak, but also deal with people from diverse backgrounds, where there's problem solving involved. Now, a mix of these three was being offered by consulting as a career. That's when I started applying to consulting companies and big fours on campus, and that's how I got placed at KPMG as a management consultant. So I worked with KPMG as a technology consultant for 2.5 years. Right after college, I got a pre-placement offer, so an internship plus a full-time job offer with them. And I worked with them from January 2020 to June 2022. That's when I quit my job. Almost abhi 2 saal ho jayenge. While I was doing my job, I started my side hustle of Dharya Decodes.
Okay.
So the journey was such that I started building on my side hustle while from day one of working at my job.
Okay.
And the aim was very simple. I realized that while I'm good at what I do, and I love problem solving and being a management consultant, I also love mentoring students and working professionals, and I enjoy it. Because I realized that if I'm willing to give this 10 to 12 hours on a Saturday, Sunday also, and beyond my working hours also, I'm sitting at 2-3 in the night and mentoring students with no money being paid to me for 0 rupees. The first 150 talks that I gave in my life were all for free. The first 150 students that I've mentored, I didn't charge them a single penny. Even after that, when I started charging, the aim was never to make money out of this or to burn a hole in a student's pocket. Because I know it's not their money, it's their parents' money.
Absolutely.
Right? And they cannot ask for, these bizarre amounts which don't add up. So I think because I never wanted to earn money via what I was doing, the side hustle of Dharya Decodes grew to such a stage, and automatically via my content creation on LinkedIn and the reach I was getting, so many colleges and edtech startups and corporates started approaching me all inbound and organically. They were the ones who made me realize I should charge for my time. That over a period of time, it scaled to a level where I think I was at a stage where I could do this full time. And I think more than the money, the fulfillment it started giving me to get messages from my mentees that, Dharya ma'am, we have made it through this interview. I've got my job at my dream company. Or my resume is getting through, certain systems. Or I got my dream internship. So that's how the journey has been. And I think, again, the aim has always been to do something that gives you joy. You should feel fulfilled and satisfied when you go to bed every night.
Yeah, absolutely.
And doing what I was doing with Dharya Decodes gave me that in tremendous amounts when compared to my full-time job, and that's how I took the decision of quitting.
I must say, such a roller coaster ride of your career, from engineering to management now. So would you suggest a 18-year-old boy or a girl, or maybe a 25-year-old boy or a girl, to switch careers when they are not finding their way out of it?
It's a very good question, and I'm glad that you asked this question, Harshita. I think what my opinion on this is, it's not about your age. It's not about, a lot of people say risk pehle le lo. When you're younger, you have a larger risk appetite. Isliye you should switch careers. I don't believe in any of it. I think there's a simple logic. If your heart, your mind and soul are not happy at what you do, and a major part of your life is your work, you are going to be dissatisfied with your life at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whether you're 18 years old or you're 40 years old, if you come to a realization that what I do for a living and where I spend at least 7 to 9 hours every single day is sucking happiness and rather not giving me happiness, you should move out of there. You should switch careers. That is my take. And a lot of career coaches may not say that, but I am saying so because what I've realized via my career and so many students that I speak to is, it's better to not have a job than have a job where you're not happy and you're able to give your best and you're able to actually grow. So I think how you decide whether you need to make a career switch, I think is majorly 2 to 3 things. First, if you realize that you're not growing in the field that you are in, or you're not growing as an individual, या आपकी 360-degree holistic development नहीं हो रही at the place you are at, probably it's time to switch.
Maybe this one take from my side that people don't generally switch their careers because of their parents.
100%.
Because they put a lot of pressure. See, you being an engineering background, so I must say that your parents are very good and must be very supportive that you are now doing a content creation thing. Right? But what about those students whose parents like literally are very strict and they want us to do engineering and only engineering for their lifetime if they are not happy.
Correct.
So
That is
what's-
also a very valid question.
Hmm.
और मेरे जब भी career counseling and I have my career guidance sessions with students, this is the major problem that comes up.
Yes.
The student tells me, listen, I want to do, let's say, a BBA in English literature, but my parents want me to do a BTech in computer
Yeah.
science engineering, for example.
Somewhere in IT around.
In IT.
Yeah.
Again, क्योंकि पैकेज हाई है, सोसाइटी में
Yeah,
इज्जत
बहुत
जो भी
ज्यादा,
है, जो
yeah.
भी है, उनके फंडे होते हैं.
Hmm.
I tell them just one thing, and I also feel, यार, not every student or every person has the courage to be able to talk about what they stand for and what they want in front of their parents, and we cannot blame anybody because every individual's upbringing and the background they come from and the kind of equation and relationship they have with their parents is very different.
Yeah, right.
People like me are blessed and lucky,
Hmm.
honestly speaking, and in the minority, not in the majority,
Hmm.
wherein your parents are firstly willing to accept and understand that our child may want to do something else, even though we have invested money in a degree that was something else.
Hmm.
I did EC engineering 4 years
Hmm.
from a top private engineering college.
Hmm.
The fees was heavy,
Hmm.
right? Although the college is great and I got great placements, fees was heavy. They could have very well told me, यार तू क्या कर रही है, हमारे पैसे बर्बाद हो रहे हैं, या what are you doing? Why are you? Because right from the day I graduated out of college, I've not done a single thing related to electronics and communication
Yeah.
in my career.
Yeah.
I know nothing about the
Yeah.
practical implementation. I think when you look at your career path and choice, and when it comes to convincing parents, it may sound harsh and brutal, but I will say it. Career आपका है. It's your career.
Hmm.
Your father or mother are not going to sit in that office room for you every single day and do your job.
Absolutely.
है ना? With all due respect, वही हमें बड़ा करते हैं, पालते हैं, पोसते हैं. They are paying money for your fees also, but also understand they cannot become a substitute for you at your job.
Absolutely.
So you are going to go through the suffering every single
Yeah,
day,
that
and then
9
you
to
are
5.
going to, जो भी, when you will be dissatisfied with your job also, please understand that in a way or the other you will blame them someday.
Hmm.
So it's better to have a stand for yourself and tell them, it's my career, I'm ready to listen to different opinions, you should talk to different people before making any decision.
Yeah.
But I feel 2 things in life, career and your life partner who you choose should be chosen by you ultimately, because you have to live with it.
Hmm.
So I don't think your parents are the right people to choose it. It's as simply put, and I'm not disrespecting anybody's parents saying that,
Yeah.
although some people might think so. But it's just the harsh reality. Like with your life partner also, शादी करने के बाद आपको रहना है ना उसके साथ, not your parents.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you make the ultimate choice.
So, being a very kind of a optimistic personality you are, so what kept you motivated? Like in all these years when you were switching your careers and everything related to that, what kept you motivated? What's that one thing that you look for and that kept you motivated throughout your journey?
See, I'll tell you one thing. I have always been an over-ambitious person. So the kind of family background that I come from and the kind of things that were drained in my head, not drained, drilled in my head, sorry, from the time when I was in 4th or 5th grade, have contributed to who you see today, and it translates into Dhairya Gangwani today.
Yeah, right.
When a girl who is in 5th grade or 4th grade is told every alternate day that Dhairya, we don't have a lot to give you. Whatever you have to build in life, you have to build yourself. If you want a good life, then education is important, because via education comes money, and money is important to live a good life. So if you want a good life for yourself, you have to concentrate on your education and career. So from 5th grade itself, my mother was very clear with this equation in my head, and she drilled it in my head that my career has to be my priority.
Right, right.
So when you come from that kind of a background and you're told this from such a tender age, you are built and molded in a certain way that you cannot slack off anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Because I didn't have an option. There's no backup. There's nobody who's going to come and build anything for me. I know there is no plan B. जो भी करना है खुद करना है, और life तो अच्छी चाहिए.
Absolutely.
Then you work for it.
At the end of the day,
At the
you
end of
all
the day,
want-
I want a good life. I am very, very blessed to be at the stage where I am, but I want to do much better. So I think that ambition and drive was instilled in me from a very young age. But more than that, I think while there were challenges that came about also, and हर stage पे आते हैं, सबकी
Yeah.
जिंदगी में आते हैं, I feel that I have always not compared myself a lot to other people.
Okay.
I learned this after college, a little later, but I feel to live a happy life, you have to stop looking at where people are in their journey sometimes and be so concentrated in where you are. Obviously, be aware of where people are going. I'm not saying be blinded by just who you are and बाहरी दुनिया में क्या हो रहा है आपको कुछ पता ही नहीं. No. But if you start comparing every single milestone that you have achieved in your life or where you are with 100 other people around you, somebody or the other is always going to be above you. I'm not the best.
Right.
I can't be. There's somebody who is going to be better than me. But can I be amongst the best? Which means, can I be amongst the top 10 in my field?
Absolutely.
Because
right.
in that top 10 radar, if I can keep moving, today I'm at number 5, tomorrow I may go to 9, then I may come to number 2, 1. But I should always be in that top 10 ka roster.
Yeah,
that is
right.
my aim in life.
Yeah.
So when you have that kind of a mindset, even if there is a challenge, like for example, Ambani, Adani, उनका आप देखते रहोगे, richest man कौन बन गया, कोई एक कभी दो,
Right.
पर आप हो ना top 10 में,
Yeah.
वो बैठ के रोते थोड़ी ना यार.
नहीं.
So that's the point. I built that mindset very early on, and that helped me stay optimistic. And I also feel that again, just the kind of person that I've been, I'm not going to say that I did something or I learned from people, yeah, I changed. I think from my childhood itself, I have been this person who's very optimistic. It may come from a particular family member. Probably my father is a very optimistic person, but I feel in general, I always try to, over a period of time, it's not like I'll not think negative of something. It's not, I'm a human being. I get pessimistic at times, but the duration for which I get pessimistic is very short. Because the optimism in me always overpowers the pessimism.
Yeah.
That's
right.
how it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
You left your KPMG job, right? After doing, I believe, 2.5 years?
Ha.
Yeah, right. What was the reaction from friends and family? What was the genuine reaction from friends and family? Actually, at that time, you left Big Four,
Yeah.
right? So, what was the reaction?
I think, see,
For the content creation sake.
हाँ, for content creation and career coaching जो मैं कर रही थी,
Yeah.
वही था तब तो. And I mean, obviously at that time it was not that established also, but I feel, again, the reaction was, obviously it's not like one night, overnight when I quit and then they got to know. When you're in the process, you, at least your parents, at least your near ones know कि okay, she's going to put down her papers. क्योंकि notice period ही 3 महीने का था. So 90 days notice period was to be served anyways. Sometimes, you know, when people ask me this question, मैं सोचती हूँ कि मैंने इतनी जल्दी सब कैसे कर लिया था actually. Because, you know, now that I think of it, I realize within the first week of my job, when a person joins their new job, everybody's focus is on the job, and my focus was also on the job. It was not like I was slacking off and not doing well. But with the focus on the job, my focus was also on building on my personal brand in the first week itself.
Okay.
Because I remember, मुझे अभी याद आ रहा है, I told my mother and my nana, lockdown चल रहा था, so I was staying at my grandparents' place. And I told my nana, he served the RBI for 33 years. He was a retired RBI officer.
Okay.
I told him that I will do something of my own eventually in the first week itself of joining the job. And he who has served one RBI for 33 years, he's like, it's been 1 week into your job. And what is this that you are saying? So I'm like, I'm just saying what I'm going to do because I'm going to do it. And then they would see me on the weekends, पागलों की तरह लगी हुई है, free session ले रही है, Saturday, Sunday को 6 session एक दिन में. After her job, after my 9 to 5, मतलब 8-9 PM ही फ्री होती थी मैं. उसके बाद भी डिनर खाने के बाद 10-11 बजे किन बच्चों से बात कर रही है फोन पे रात को 1 बजे. What is she doing? And the main question was, you're not getting money for it, you're not getting anything out of it. Why are you doing this? At that time, I didn't know if this will fetch me something. It was just giving me joy. I was doing it. But I was very clear that ultimately I will do something of my own. So when you ask me what was the reaction, I kind of prep them up. Every 1.5 months, 2 months, I would give them a progress report. In the sense, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm at. Itne sessions ho gaye hain. You start with 10 sessions. Today I'm at 100 sessions, for example. You show the progress. But what are you getting out of these sessions? Then you show them, there's a platform called LinkedIn. I had 500 followers. Today I'm at 10,000 followers. What do you do with those followers then, right? So eventually I would tell them, people will start calling me and paying me money. Hopefully. I will get brand deals, hopefully. That time I didn't even know LinkedIn पे brands आएंगे. मैंने बोल दिया confidence में, right? It was the stage where धीरे-धीरे I was just trying to tell them that, listen, this is going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when there came a stage, not just financially, obviously I weighed the financial pros and cons, because you can't just, you know, quit a job, that too at a Big Four and such a prestigious company, and start things just like that. I had seen everything, right? Within the first 6 months of doing my side hustle, I had started making more money than my job.
Okay.
But I didn't quit. I stayed for another 2 years. Why? My equation was not that ki the day I start making equivalent or more money from my side hustle, quit the job. I don't believe in that logic. You should quit your job the day you stop learning at your job. That's my logic. My logic was the day I get saturated at the job and I don't have anything to learn. And Dhairya Gangwani as a person, because when you're working at a big four and you're working in technology consulting, I was growing as a very different person as opposed to what I was doing in content creation and career coaching. So I was evolving parallelly. But when that growth also stopped, जब कुछ सीखने को ही नहीं है, redundant हो गई ये चीजें, पैसे का तो स्टेज बहुत पहले ही चला गया था.
Right.
Then I was like, now it's the right time to quit.
Yeah, so there are just the one thing that I found out from your conversation is like you have started building your personal brand from your home itself.
Correct. Yeah.
And starting में,
नानी के घर पे.
starting में that
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
doing this things,
Correct.
I am taking sessions, I am doing
Yeah.
this, such things, that things. Like, so can you just tell me how much in today's time it's important to build your personal brand? Now we are talking about LinkedIn, so yes. So how much is important to build your personal brand?
When it comes to personal branding, today it's a word that's very common and people understand what it is. I started working on my personal brand in September 2020. Lockdown हुए 5-6 महीने हुए थे. At that time, building a personal brand was something that was not common. Creating content on LinkedIn was not considered as a thing. People would tell me, you're crazy, you put videos on LinkedIn. I used to make videos on LinkedIn in September 2020. It was too, far-sighted. Even today, you don't see so many people create videos on LinkedIn.
Yes. Absolutely.
So the reason, but again, I was not doing it out of any outcome. What I realized is I'm good with the camera. I like talking to people. I like being in front of the camera, and I naturally can talk about things. So I started creating videos. You won't believe it. एक फटा हुआ पर्दा होता था, a torn curtain at my nani's house on a window. I would not even make my hair. I was so undergroomed. जूड़ा बना हुआ है. I'm in my night suit. And I would just pick up the camera. I didn't even have an iPhone at that time. I would not even clean the camera. Phone ka camera. Uthaya, bola. That's it. I would speak. I would create a video. Shoot the video on the LinkedIn app and post it at that moment. That is all that I would do. The point I'm trying to make here is, if you want to make a personal brand even then or even today, firstly, there is no resource that you need other than just a phone and your thoughts or whatever it is that you want to talk about. So my question is, why not create a personal brand? When it is so easy, there is no investment required in terms of money or equipment. My question is, why is a personal brand important, you ask me? See, look at it from any angle. Let's say there's a job seeker, right? They're looking for a job. There are two people. They both come from the same college. They have a similar degree. आस-पास ही उनके grades हैं. Let's say the clubs and chapters they've been to are also similar. Internships भी, years of experience भी same. अब मैं इंटरव्यू लेती हूँ, कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स भी ऑलमोस्ट आसपास है. अब इस स्टेज के बाद हाउ एम आई गोना डिसाइड एज अ रिक्रूटर आउट ऑफ दीज टू व्हिच वन टू पिक? आई टेल यू, आई विल पिक द वन हु हैज अ बेटर सोशल मीडिया प्रेजेंस टुडे and not on Instagram or YouTube, on LinkedIn, because I'm hiring them for a job, right? If you're hiring them for a creative job, yes, then maybe I'll check YouTube and Instagram also. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but I would then look at their LinkedIn profile, see what USP they have, something unique. I would look at their content, I would see what they're talking about, right? If somebody claims to be a good software engineer, for example, if their LinkedIn posts are also related to software engineering and they're sharing knowledge, wouldn't I trust that person more कि इसको actual में इस चीज की knowledge है?
Right.
It's simple. So your LinkedIn profile is a digital portfolio. It's like a digital canvas. That is one use case. Second, let's assume you're a freelancer. If you have a presence on LinkedIn and you have a personal brand on LinkedIn, you can get leads for your freelancing services and for your business for free. Your cost to acquire new customers or new freelancing clients goes down to zero if you have a great presence. Let's consider you're a startup founder. A startup founder obviously has a product or a service or a brand. Okay. Now, a startup founder, if they have a strong personal brand today on LinkedIn, take Aman Gupta, take Vinita Singh, for instance, take Ankur Warikoo, anybody, all of them are selling something, okay, for their company or their personal brand. And because they have a strong personal brand and they are able to build that trust and relatability with the audience, today, because of Aman Gupta's strong personal brand, boat के sales पे बहुत फर्क पड़ा after Shark Tank.
Absolutely.
100% पड़ा.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Now, and the last use case, you're a student, right? Let's say if you're a student, you're just studying in college also. It's the best way, number one, to get connected to professionals who are working at companies you aspire to work at. It's the best way to learn and get to know about what's happening in the ecosystem. And is the best way to also create a personal brand as a student. Why shouldn't a student have a personal brand today?
So Dara, just tell me one thing. If today I want to build my LinkedIn, right? can you just give me like the strategy, like the step by step guide, like how can I build or how can I gain 10K followers on LinkedIn? Like what should be my first step?
See, I'll give you a practical roadmap or a step-by-step process that you can follow. I think the first step is to know your why. Because if your why of starting or wanting to create a personal brand on LinkedIn is not clear, at some part of this journey, you will not be able to sustain, or you will question why you're doing it. So first have clarity that why do you want to be active on LinkedIn or create a personal brand, and that why should be very personal to you and you should be convinced. That is important. The second step is, once you know why you want to create a personal brand on LinkedIn, you should actually start with optimizing your LinkedIn profile. That's the first basic step, which means the basic cleanup. How does your profile look? Your banner, headline, aapka about section, your display picture, everything on your profile should be uniformly aligned and created in such a way that it tells people who you are, what you do, and how can you help people. People should get the answers to these questions by just skimming through your LinkedIn profile in 10 to 15 seconds, right? So that is a well-made and a well-optimized LinkedIn profile which speaks for itself, where a person is not doubtful, oh, is this person a career coach, or are they, let's say, a software engineer, or are they both? Whatever it is and whatever persona you want to create, people should get to know about it just by looking at your profile in 15-30 seconds. That's step 2. Step 3 is, once you've optimized your profile, it's important to back up your profile with relevant content. What I mean by relevant content is, I'm not advocating everybody to become content creators on LinkedIn. Okay? Our Honorable Prime Minister also posts on LinkedIn. Priyanka Chopra also posts on LinkedIn. Yuvraj Singh also, Sunil Shetty also. They're not trying to be creators or earn money. They're doing it because LinkedIn has got a large network effect, and it is a very strong professional networking platform, and there are influential people on the platform. That's why they're creating. Why, as a student or a job seeker also, you should create posts is because, for example, if throughout your profile you're telling somebody, listen, I am a Java full stack developer, or I'm a social media manager, or I'm a brand management expert, or whatever persona you are creating, just by writing those keywords or making a fancy banner, people will not believe you. That's step 1. If you have posts to support what you know about brand management, or what you know about Java as a language, or what you know about, let's say, for example, creating a content strategy for a brand, then people will have trust that, okay, this person can actually be hired in my firm or can be useful to me. So your content that you create should be aligned to the career path you want to take, or whatever persona you want to build, or whatever career goals you have in life. Because if there is no content, there's no social proof that you can actually do it. मैं सिर्फ बोल दूं I'm a public speaker, ऐसा नहीं होता ना. When people see videos from my talks where I'm addressing 2,000, 100, 300 people, then that backs up what I'm saying, that I'm actually a public speaker. That's why step 3 is create relevant content. Step 4 is, once you've started creating content, you also need to experiment with different content formats and also start doubling down on what is working for you. What that means is, LinkedIn is not like Instagram. You don't have just reels. Ki reels banate jo every day, one day one reel goes viral and you've made it. It doesn't work like that. There's nothing known as virality on LinkedIn. There's sustained growth. It's taken me 3.5 years to hit 1 lakh followers. What I'm trying to say is, because there are so many surfaces, which means you have PDFs, there are carousels, image plus text post, video plus text post, LinkedIn polls, LinkedIn audio events, LinkedIn live. इधर ही मैंने आपको 7 surface गिना दिए. Which means there's no formula or strategy wherein you just do any one of these and you grow. For every person, every kind of an audience they're building and a niche, your equation is going to be different. Like for me, videos worked. Videos may not work for you. For somebody, PDFs or carousels may work on LinkedIn. So to get to that code and to crack it, what is working for you, you'll have to experiment with all formats and then build on a strategy of what's working. That's step 4. And then the last step is networking and building the right set of connections to get opportunities. So once you have optimized your profile, you know your why, you have also started creating content, आपने strategy भी बना दी, and you're regularly, let's say, being active on LinkedIn, the last step is being very mindful of who you add to your network in terms of connections, whose connection requests you're accepting, rejecting, the kind of people you are engaging with also on LinkedIn as a platform. All of that gives a signal to the LinkedIn algorithm. Who are you and what kind of a network you're building? Also, it's not just about adding connections and followers. You have to go one step beyond, build a professional relationship with people. Go to their DM, see what value you can add, have interactions. All of this at the back end is monitored by the LinkedIn algorithm. People don't know this. The kind of chats you have in the inbox with people, how you connect, how long of a conversation you're having also, and what kind of a conversation, what value addition is happening, all of that counts. So you should be focusing on building a network on LinkedIn of people who are actually valuable, who you add value to first. Because networking is not about what I can get from people. Networking is about what I can provide. That is
Right.
where people go wrong.
Right.
When you have something to bring to the table is when people will want to network with you. So I think when you go through this 5-step process, that's how over a period of time, जब आप ये 5 step follow करोगे, automatically, now it could take you 3 months, could take you a year, it's very easy to get to a 10k follower mark then. Because this is the only practical way you could get to 10k followers. Because when you repeatedly create content, connect with the right set of people and engage with them, that's how, because of the network effect and ripple effect, people will start getting exposed to your content pieces or your profile, and that's how your followers or connections will increase.
Okay. So I just got the gist of how a person, or basically how an individual can get to the first 10k followers on LinkedIn.
Right.
You just mentioned anybody who's posting on LinkedIn is not for like the content creator part. Like who's
Not everybody.
Not everybody
Yeah.
is a content creator, right? But if somebody wants to be, a content creator on LinkedIn, maybe he's from marketing field, right? Or he or she wants to build their personal brand on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Like how can they pick their niche on LinkedIn? Like it's very problematic from the side of people. Like they find it very difficult to pick the niche.
Correct.
Like can you just simplify or break it down, like how people can find their correct niche and excel it over the time, or they can get k followers or a lakh followers over the period of time?
Yeah, sure. So I think again that's a very relevant question also, and I feel that choosing a niche for any content creator, irrespective of the platform, is one very big question that we face in our creator journey, right? Because you can't just be doing everything and anything, right? Because if you do everything, people don't take you that seriously after a point of time, and that's the reality. When you have a niche and people know you for something specific, people start looking at you as an expert or a thought leader in that space. They will specifically come to you for it. And now choosing that is problematic, like you said, because again, there are so many options that it's difficult to know, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. But I think how I went about it is how I'd like to advise others to do it. I did not pick a niche. I experimented, and then I was automatically drawn to a niche. The niche came to me actually.
Okay.
So I'll tell you how it works. See, there are 2 ways. One is you are very, very clear about, like for example, if somebody is very clear, listen, I'm from a finance background, I do a finance job and I'm very interested in financial concepts. I want to impart financial literacy. Sorted.
Right.
Then you're going to talk about finance. Talk about finance, give tips, maybe talk a little bit about business, startups, whatever interests you. Then it becomes very easy, and then your niche is going to be finance and business per se, by and large, umbrella topics. Now,
Right.
how you break it down, sub niches, what you want to create over a period of time, you can create content buckets. But I think for most people, this doesn't happen so easily. What you should instead do is don't have a niche in the beginning.
Okay.
Just talk about yourself and your personal journey, your challenges, your failures. Document who you are as a person, what you're learning at work, anything you learn from a person. So when you start creating personal content and just sharing your journey, number one, in the beginning, it makes people more interested and starts building that bond wherein they connect with you, because people don't know you. Nobody knew who Dhairya Gangwani is, or even today not everybody knows me on LinkedIn, right?
Absolutely.
So the point is, first people connect with people, then they connect with the knowledge they're giving. So anyways, initially you creating content around your personal journey is going to be beneficial for you 100%. Second, that will give you some time to think about what you want to exactly talk about. Third, it will give you room to start talking about anything and everything in the beginning. Because in the beginning, let's say you have on your mind ki I want to talk about marketing or operations or social media. No problem. What you should do is start posting 3 times a week. 1 post in the marketing niche, 1 in the operations niche, 1 in the social media niche. Over a period of time, you will realize you would not enjoy the process of creating the post under one of these niches. Then you will slow down on it. And dheere over a period of time, you'll realize you're enjoying creating the content and the posts, or ideating on the topics, brainstorming on the strategy for a particular niche, and your audience is also liking it. And when that beautiful combination comes to life, you will eventually realize, oh, this is my niche. Because I was talking about not a lot of things. Career realm mein I was talking, but I didn't have this specific niche key on the soft skills front or the career development front of things. Only like profile building, resume, LinkedIn, interview prep, majorly side hustles I'll talk about. Or studying abroad, right? It's all in the career development niche, umbrella. These are subtopics. Pehle I would also at times maybe also talk about, let's say, public speaking at times, or soft skills, or whatever, random things a lot, right? It was very scattered. But slowly and steadily, when you start narrowing down, your content also gets refined, and your audience also gives you answers, and you also get answers yourself what you want to talk about, and then your niche is already chosen because your audience has already told you, hey, we like you talking about this the most. And that should, in a way, I think most logically, because of content audience ke liye hi bana rahe ho, you're obviously making it for yourself, joy also that it gives you, but who is consuming it? Your audience.
Right.
If your audience is signaling, I like this kind of content and these topics, it's the best way to pick your niche. So I think
Right.
over a period of time, that's how you pick your niche.
Okay. Dhairya, you have certainly built a very good community, or I believe a followers on LinkedIn, right? So at what time you realize like what's the best time to post on LinkedIn, or how many times we should post on LinkedIn? How do you decode this, strategy?
I think, see, there is no strategy. And when I say this, a lot of people think कि ये झूठ बोल रही है, or she doesn't want to tell people, or it's a secret. It's nothing like that. See, the who's who and the so-called LinkedIn gurus also who conduct master classes and classes have a certain golden period, or whatever time they say that, this is the time you should post and that is when your posts do well. I don't believe in it. With all due respect. Why? Because मैं खुद 4 साल से post कर रही हूँ LinkedIn पे. There's not a single time that I've not experimented with, not a single day I've not experimented with, not a single time zone. And I can guarantee you, there is no one size fit all time. Harshita posting at 7 p.m. on Tuesday doesn't mean Dhairya posting on 7 p.m. Tuesday post will be viral. Dhairya has posted at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, post has done very well. Next Tuesday 7 p.m. post has tanked. What does that mean? That means it's not about a specific time and a specific day. It is just about how relevant that topic is at that particular time and how active your audience by chance is at that particular moment. So am I saying no, there is no time at all? There is something called a time range.
Right.
There is a range in which your audience is most active, which you will figure out over a period of time. When you'll continuously create for 3 to 6 months, you'll come to a realization that between so and so time period, my audience is most active. But I cannot pinpoint 6 p.m. every day and your post will do it. I'll give you my time range. I have understood in 3 years of consistently posting that 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. evening, my audience is most active. Now, in this range, ऐसा नहीं 6:20 sharp में post करती हूँ. No, I can post at 7:30, I can post at 7:45, I can post at 9 p.m. But I'll post within this time range. So, I feel over a period of time, you realize what this time range is. In terms of days, yes, obviously, Friday onwards, people get into that zone of weekend, shutting off from everything related to work. So engagement slows down from Friday evening, Saturday and Sunday. But there are so many times my posts have blown up on Saturday and Sunday, personal ones. But typically engagement is the most between Tuesday to Thursday, generally for people. Midweek, because Monday people are still just getting used to the fact that Monday aa gaya hai. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday becomes like a good period.
Okay, so how many times do you post on LinkedIn in a week?
See, I started with posting 2 times a week. Then I started, increasing the frequency. I would post 1 post every single day until almost 5 months ago, 5-6 months ago. But now, because it's been a while, I try to post at least 3 to 4 times in a week.
That's enough, I believe.
Yeah, like at a certain stage, now that I have 1 lakh followers, 4 times a week is very decent. Sometimes I post on all days also. It also really depends because I don't use any LinkedIn scheduler or content calendar. Till date, one thing which is very fascinating about my journey is, till date, I have never planned my LinkedIn content. It may sound very, I don't know, whatever, but yeah, even today, I don't know what I'm going to post today or if I'm going to post or not. If I get an idea or a thought which I really want to talk about, I'll pick up the phone, write my caption, post it.
Yeah.
But if something does not click me and I'm not convinced that this is going to add value to my audience, सिर्फ post करने के लिए मैं post नहीं करती. And yeah, I go with the flow. 3 years I've gone with the flow on LinkedIn. I've never scheduled or put anything on a paper wherein I know this day I'm going to post this. Everything is organic.
Okay. I believe that's the strategy.
Maybe. That's my strategy for sure. That's worked for me.
Okay. Maybe this works for
other people also.
Others as well. Yeah. So when you were building your brand, your personal brand, I would say on LinkedIn, were there any specific features on LinkedIn that would work very, great when you were building your brand?
Yeah, I think, at least in my personal journey of creating content on LinkedIn, like I told you, I'll elaborate a little. Videos work magically for me, which was very surprising, right? I did it because I was comfortable with the camera. People thought I was crazy because nobody creates videos on LinkedIn. That to 3.5 years ago. But I think why it worked well for me is, number one, because most of the people were not doing it. I believe in life, when you start doing things 99% of the people are not doing, you automatically come in the top 1%. That's the secret sauce.
Yeah.
99% of the people were not creating videos, so it was very easy for me to stand out, right? People would notice me on their feed because अगर 20 पोस्ट में एक वीडियो आ रही है तो आप नोटिस हो गई ना किसी की भी फीड पे. That was one. Second was, I think videos as a feature worked for me really well also because I was, I think, very good at simplifying things. So my language was not very fancy. I mean, I think I'm a decent communicator, but my vocabulary is not fancy. I don't try to use jargons which people will not understand. I try to simplify it as a very casual conversation I'm having with a person in a certain tone and flow, which people seem to start liking. And I think the third reason why again videos work for me was, at that time they were very natural. I did not edit videos. Like I told you, I would just pick up my phone, record and put it. It was very real, organic, on the go. People could see she just picks up her phone camera. Wherever she's sitting, she very organically talks about what she wants, and maybe people like that she's very natural, right? She's not forcing anything. So that was one feature for sure. And I think the other feature that worked really well for me was LinkedIn Audio, which was launched just 1.5 years ago. It's not been very long. So LinkedIn, in their attempt to have like a podcasting in-house feature of their own of sorts, they launched something called LinkedIn Audio Events, wherein you can host audio only events, right? And your audience gets notified when you go live, and you can host people like we're doing this podcast. We could have done this on a LinkedIn Audio event also. Obviously there'll be no video. I will, let's say you're the host and you're inviting me as a guest, right? Just like that. And both of our audiences will get notified when we go live, and they can join in live at that moment, listen to this conversation, raise their hands and also ask questions. And yeah, we get done with the LinkedIn Audio event.
Okay.
This started seeing a lot of traction for me because I think probably I banked on it early on. And obviously, any platform, when they launch a new feature and if you use it, they will push you and promote you, obviously, because they want to promote that new feature. So I did a lot of LinkedIn Audio events for a lot of brands, and I think that really helped me because at one time it was very easy to get 1,000-2,000 people in an audio room because that feature was just booming. You would go live and there were 1,000 people joining you, and that's brilliant, just listening to your conversation. So there was value in it for me as well, because my audience was getting knowledge and, you know, also being able to add value to a brand who was partnering with me to do these audio events. So I think audio events were another feature that I leveraged very well. Yeah.
Okay. So here we talked about the features that worked really great for you.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe, and to some extent, that this feature will, if somebody else will implement it, that they will also do wonders in their LinkedIn as well. Right. There is this concept when basically I personally, when I started LinkedIn, or maybe when I see people, they are actually doing LinkedIn kind of stuff, that there is this thing called premium LinkedIn. Yeah, so many people buy this premium LinkedIn and they thought that their profile got optimized and they will get call from top recruiters, from top companies. Like, is that so? Or can you just give us the exact information about, should we opt for premium LinkedIn or should we not opt for premium LinkedIn?
Yeah, sure. See, LinkedIn Premium, as the name suggests, is the premium version of the LinkedIn platform, of the app. It is on a paid model. It has a subscription, monthly subscription. There are 4 types of LinkedIn Premium that exist. There's LinkedIn Business, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Recruiter, and LinkedIn Job Seeker. 4. All 4 have a different cost. You can always go to the LinkedIn website and check it. There's a monthly amount and a billing. Every premium version has certain features that they cater to. Majorly, you get access to something called in-mails, which means, let's say I am not connected to you, Harshita, nor do you follow me, nor am I connected to you. But I want to reach out to you on LinkedIn and I want to talk to you. I will send you an in-mail on LinkedIn. If I have a LinkedIn Premium version, what is an in-mail? I will type a message, just like you write an email with a subject line. That in-mail will not just reach you on your LinkedIn DM, but that in-mail will also go to your email ID linked to your LinkedIn account. So it goes to 2 places, your LinkedIn DM and your email automatically. So obviously the chances of someone replying increase, and it's the best way to reach out to anybody who you're not connected to on LinkedIn. You get access to these X number of in-mails depending on which premium version you have. There's something called search. So your number of searches is limited if you have a non-paid LinkedIn version, a basic version. After 200 or 300 searches, you're not allowed to search for people. Block ho jata hai. After a certain period of time, last 90 days mein, the people who have viewed your profile, you can't view if you have the basic version. But if you have any of these premium versions, you get that visibility. Like I have taken the LinkedIn Job Seeker Premium only. For any period of time, as long as my monthly subscription is paid, my last 90-day views are visible to me, who's viewed my profile. I have unlimited searches, right?
Okay.
I can send about 15 to 20 emails in a month, right? These are the extra features. If I'm a job seeker and you're applying for jobs, how does it help you? Does it create a bias or you get priority? No. There's no special access you get. But yes, when you're applying for jobs and you're using a LinkedIn Premium version, you get to know if you're amongst the top 10% of the job seekers applying for the job. You get to know if your resume has been seen, downloaded, shortlisted, viewed. वो सारे आपको process timelines दिखने लगते हैं. Are your top how many of your top skills are matching with the skills needed in the job by mapping the job description with your profile? That happens.
Okay.
You also get to know how many job seekers who have applied for the job have done a bachelor's degree versus a master's, and where do you stand. So these insights you get to see when you have the job seeker version. LinkedIn Recruiter Premium version is used by recruiters to find talent. That's how they find talent. So that's the solution that companies purchase in bulk for the recruiters. LinkedIn Business, the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, is mostly used by sales representatives and business development executives of companies for lead generation primarily. And then your LinkedIn Job Seeker, LinkedIn Business is again used by businesses typically.
Okay.
So that is it. If you'll go and just read, there's just a difference in the monthly amount and certain number of emails and filters and searches may difference hai. Baki, it's just that it's a paid version, so you get a different badge, which is a yellow color badge, right? Because it's paid to distinguish between a normal LinkedIn user and a paid user. But there's nothing extraordinary that you get access to wherein someone's given preference over you if you have premium.
So would you suggest anybody to buy premium LinkedIn?
I think you should purchase it at a stage wherein if you've entered your first job, you're making your own bucks now, and you want to really network with the right set of people, and in the future at some stage too, you will either switch a job or you will be looking for a job at some point of time. I think then taking the LinkedIn Premium Job Seeker version makes sense. If you are a recruiter yourself, your company will anyways purchase a LinkedIn recruiter. So it depends on the stage you are at. I took the LinkedIn Job Seeker version because it was the lowest amount that you had to pay. The others didn't make sense to me. And whatever features LinkedIn Job Seeker was providing to me in the premium version were more than enough. So I just purchased that. I think I pay 1,500 a month for it.
Okay, up to 1,500?
1,500.
1,500.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you also get access to, by the way, LinkedIn Learning courses once you buy any of the premium versions, which you don't get access to. Yes, there are some free courses on LinkedIn Learning.
So there's some things on LinkedIn Premium that you can get question answers for the interview preps.
That also you
building.
get. Those are also there.
Okay.
You don't see, it's वो बोलने के लिए resume है. Your entire LinkedIn profile is condensed into a resume and you can download a resume. That feature is there with Premium. वो आपकी LinkedIn profile ही download होती है. Yes, you also get the feature of preparing for certain interview questions. Like you get access to a guide wherein depending on the different types of interviews you can prepare as well. But apart from that, you also get access to LinkedIn Learning courses. So there are some free courses and then there are some premium courses.
Okay.
Any free LinkedIn user does not get access to the high-end and advanced LinkedIn Learning courses.
Okay.
But if you are a premium user, you also get access to the advanced level of LinkedIn Learning courses.
Being a premium user on LinkedIn, would one get an advantage to get into the recruiters of top companies? Like, would it be easier for them?
No.
To get...
There's nothing like that. There's no, like I said, there's no preferential bias. There's no systematic way in which because you have a premium you'll get selected. At the end of the day, ultimately your LinkedIn profile, what it says, your knowledge and your resume more than anything else is what is going to get you that interview call.
Okay. See, if I have to suppose get connected to the top company recruiters or top company HRs on LinkedIn, because that's the best place where you can find I believe the founders of Microsoft, Apple, or maybe the HRs of Apple, Microsoft, all the top companies. Like, how can one get connected with the top companies recruiters?
Sure. So, see, firstly, you need to understand that it's not easy to get in touch with the founders of MNCs or large companies. Directly founders se touch mein aana is difficult. But startup founders are more approachable. Understand that.
Yeah.
When I was looking for internships in startups, I could reach out to startup founders directly. But if I want to, let's say, intern at a Microsoft or a Google or a KPMG, the founder is not going to reply to your message practically unless you're doing something very
Extraordinary.
intriguing and extraordinary that catches their
Extraordinary.
attention. That's the reality.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So first you need to understand that you should target the HRs or talent acquisition managers when it's MNCs, and you should target the founders directly or the chief of staff or the founder's office role wale people of startups. That's number one. Second, how do you do it? You should first be following the company page. Every startup or company today has a company page on LinkedIn. You should be following the company page because any job openings that are listed by them are put on the company page. If you're not following their company page, you will not get intimated about these job openings. There's something called a job alert. You can set a job search alert for a particular company or a startup by going to their LinkedIn company page and setting up the customized job alert there. And every time there's an opening, you will be notified immediately in your jobs tab on LinkedIn. That is very important. Third thing, if you want to do outreach yourself, you should go to the LinkedIn company page of the company you aspire to work at. There's a tab called People. Go to the People tab and look for the HR managers, hiring managers, or talent acquisition managers. Why? Because no employee of the company is going to hire you into the firm unless you're going to go via the referral route. The HR is going to hire talent in the firm, right?
Right.
So the door you need to knock is the HR.
HR.
Find the HRs, put the filters of specifically the location also where you're going to apply for a job. So find the HRs, let's say at Microsoft, who is sitting in Bangalore. आपको एक list आ जाएगी उस people tab पे जाके when you'll type in the search bar HR managers and then you filter it for Bangalore or Bombay. All of the HR sitting in Bangalore for that company will appear in front of you. Now, don't just connect with them, right? And don't just send generic personalized invites. This tip has also become too over-exhausted now that send personalized invites. Cool, send personalized invites, but now everybody's sending personalized invites. How will your personalized invite stand out as compared to another student or another job seeker? When it is more customized, when it is to the point, and when it shows you've taken effort, right? Which means when you're reaching out to a recruiter or an HR manager, you need to spend time on their profile, research about them, make the message as personalized and customized as possible. Show them you've spent 5 minutes of your time getting to know about their profile or their journey. Everybody wants to listen to good things about them. Okay? Everybody likes attention.
Right.
If you're going to talk about me, I, give me this job. Yeah, I'm looking for a job in the first message, you're not getting a job. The worst way to get a job or an internship is to ask for it in the first message. You never
Right.
ask for something you deserve. I always say that. If you deserve it, you will get it because you'll get it on your own merit. You rather build a good playground and a footing that why should you hire me? And how you build that is when you talk about your skill set, what you've done at your previous firm or what you've done in college, what you've built on, what you've learned through a course or through an internship. So talk about the value addition you bring to the table and then talk about what kind of an opportunity you're looking at. People go wrong with the drill. They'll first ask for the job and they won't talk about what they bring to the table. They'll not build that connect. You have to send 3-4 messages, engage with their content, come in their eyes, find something common between the two of you to break the ice.
Comment
On their
the
post, meaningful post. Do something wherein you're getting noticed over and over again, building a brand recall value, and then ask for something. I think that's the way you get a job or an internship on LinkedIn. 5
Okay.
internships that I got on LinkedIn were using this exact same strategy.
Best strategy, I believe. Like,
Yeah.
not to ask for a job if you genuinely want a job.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, they should automatically come to a stage wherein they tell you, hey, we want to work with you. And it'll be great to know if you could send your resume or if we could set up an interview call. And that will only happen when you're not desperate to get a job.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Don't show that much kind of desperate. that
Correct,
I
desperacy.
want it. So I believe the first place that the HR will remove you like, oh,
Yeah. For sure.
Hai na?
Because they
Right.
get thousands of DMs every day.
that I
And
want a
you
job.
are just one amongst that.
yeah, I want a job.
Yeah. I want
Any
a
job opening,
For
vacancy.
sure. हाँ यही बोल के तो जॉब मिलती है. Is
हाँ.
there a job opening? ये लो.
हाँ, ये लो. आ
इतनी
जाना कल
easily
से.
अगर if it would be, I mean, if jobs were served on a platter and it was so easy, सबको मिल जाती ना.
सबको
सिर्फ
मिल
ये बोल के
जाती.
कि जॉब
Right.
दे दो.
वो भी टॉप कंपनीज में जब हम बात कर रहे हैं
Correct.
तो.
Exactly.
Right. I believe, Dhairya, that your journey of like 3.5 years on LinkedIn, that you
Yeah.
have built a lakhs of followers on LinkedIn, I believe that you must have done a lot of networking on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Right. So for that, you must have sent that cold email messages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people on the first place suffer how to like write those cold email messages. So can you just share your cold email message template to our audience?
Sure. I don't exactly remember what I used to write, but
Huh.
one thing is very clear that whenever I would do a cold outreach on LinkedIn directly on DM, or I would send a cold email even today, my approach is very simple. Number one, the cold email or the cold message that your cold outreach message that is going out has to be very crisp and precise. People don't have time. You have to save people's time and you have to grab attention.
Yeah.
Now, you grab attention either by making a very, very, I would say, overconfident, not overconfident, a very confident statement, or by piquing somebody's interest by saying something that they didn't expect. For example, if I, let's say, want to work with a brand, okay, as a creator, and my subject line says that I am the next educational content creator you'll onboard for your campaign. That's a very large claim to make. And it's a statement. I'm saying I am the next creator you'll onboard for your campaign. That subject line will intrigue the brand manager or the person to at least open the email. I'm not saying they'll hire me for that campaign, but they'll be like, who is she? Or who is this person who has the audacity or the guts to say this with so much confidence that I am the next creator you'll onboard for this campaign, or you need to onboard me for this campaign, or I will change the landscape of your next, let's say, educational campaign. या आपने कुछ भी personalize कर दिया. So first is you've got the attention. Now, if you actually have good credentials and you're doing great work, this could be in a job scenario also, then your profile and the content in your email will speak for itself and justify that claim. Right? You could, for all you know, have a very bold statement, but nothing in that email. Things can go haywire also. So both of the things have to work in tandem, which means your subject line also has to make great claims and has to be very intriguing or surprising, or has to be very factual, or something that grabs attention. And then the content has to be so crisp, precise, and backed with data that the person's impressed. So when I would send cold emails, which would be typically to brands, because I never did it for jobs. I did cold messages for internships, I told you. But with brands also, I would put a 90-second video resume. Who asked for a video resume from a creator? But I would do it. I would customize it typically for that brand and tell them why they should work with me. And obviously, I would have my resume attached also, just in case they want to see it. My LinkedIn profile was there. So you have to go out of your way. How many people do you think sit down and create a 90-second video resume, send their resume and their LinkedIn profile, a great subject line and a concise content piece in the email body? People don't do it. People give up. They're lazy. It's the reality. You'll do it for 10 brands, you'll do it for 15 up 20th pe give up kar doge. And that is where the person who's going to the 21st or the 25th will get that reply. And you also need to understand that the reply rate is not as much unless you're very good at writing those cold emails. Luckily, I have had at least a 99% hit rate, right? If I'm sending a cold email, chances are in the next few hours, within the next 24 hours, I get a reply. And that has happened over a period of time. Because also over a period of time, I've built a profile and a credibility for myself, wherein if I'm saying I can do this and people can see your work, obviously over a period of time, it'll become easier to get replies from influential people. But in your early days, it's just two things, like I said, grab attention and obviously have enough testimony to the fact that if you've got their attention now, why is it that they should give you their precious time for whatever it is?
Yeah, right. I believe that after the initiation of ChatGPT and AI, right, it would be easier for more people to write down their content.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, right.
It is easier.
Yeah,
It is. I mean, most of the people are doing it that way, right?
So after ChatGPT, it would be more easier for people to write their content on LinkedIn or maybe anywhere else in type of articles or in type of posts. Do you also use AI to basically write your articles or your post on LinkedIn to basically amplify it more?
See, I'll tell you something. I use ChatGPT primarily to work on the conceptualization and ideas, topic ideas. Okay. I don't use ChatGPT even 1% when it comes to curating the content or the scripts. I do that very consciously, not because I cannot do it or I don't have access to it or I don't know how to use the tool. It's because my authenticity as a creator, especially on a platform like LinkedIn, where writing is the main thing, will get lost because trust me, if you're smart, you'll pick it in a jiffy if that piece is written by ChatGPT.
Right.
People are smart enough. I've been writing for 3.5 years, and if today Dhairya starts writing something that is curated through ChatGPT, my audience will know they're smart. My audience is smart.
Right.
That's the audience I've built.
Yeah.
So why would I do that and jeopardize my career after 3.5 years? But I am also not naive or dumb enough to waste my time to not leverage AI. because AI is here to stay and it is making people's life easy.
Yeah.
So for Instagram primarily, when it comes to my topic ideation, brainstorming, and sometimes even scripting, just the conceptualization, I use ChatGPT for sure. On LinkedIn, when I am out of topic ideas and I don't understand what's happening, or if I want to get an idea of a particular topic and the kind of post that people are already creating, I do my research and I refer to ChatGPT for sure.
Right.
But the ultimate writing and the post going out is done purely by me, even today, manually. Whether it is the final script of Instagram or the final, LinkedIn draft, it's still done by me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great that you have actually told us the right way of using AI,
Yeah.
not just copy paste, because people are smart enough in today's time that they will definitely knew it at a first sight that is written by
LinkedIn pe to the
ChatGPT.
audience is so smart.
Very smart.
They
very smart.
call out people in the comments saying ki people have started using ChatGPT to write comments.
Oh god.
Like you're so lazy, you want to get your comment also generated by
But,
AI, and people are writing ChatGPT alert on comments. Like, why would you want to be in such a position? See, I think I have worked very hard for where I've reached, and like I said, I cannot jeopardize or risk where I am
by using
just for this, right? So I think
yeah,
it's also very important to know how to use AI or any kind of technology for your betterment and benefit and to save time versus making it do everything that you are supposed to.
maybe this kind of thing maybe freshers are doing who have just built their LinkedIn account and they want to build their
No.
personal brand on LinkedIn.
I can tell you people with 16-15 years of experience also who are doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not
Okay.
just freshers. I can't take names, I wish I could. And someday I will also, but no. It's not restricted to just freshers.
Okay.
It's people are lazy. It's simple.
Okay.
Jaldi kaam ho raha hai. I don't want to do it. Why do I need to spend time? Use my brain. People want to shut off and not use their brain even the more, unfortunately.
Right.
So they do it.
Right. They just write it down, ChatGPT.
Acha prompt de do.
Hmm.
You get a response. Copy paste. Your life is easy.
When I see actually the LinkedIn profiles of maybe the CEO's level, C-level, I am talking about
C-level
the C-level,
executives,
C-level executives, or maybe the fresher, they both generally find it difficult to build their personal brand on LinkedIn. If I talk about the CEO's level, they also find it difficult to build their personal brand on LinkedIn, right? Or freshers, so they also find very difficult to build their personal brand on LinkedIn. What kind of advice do you want to give a fresher who's maybe a 18 or a 20-year-old or a CEO? I'm not saying a 50 or a 60-year-old because CEOs are also
now,
22, 25 years old. But it's what kind of strategy you want to give to a fresher or to a CEO to build their personal brand on LinkedIn, because we know in today's time the personal brand is the only thing that can take you forward.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
So what's your take on this?
See, both of them should do it firstly. The strategy is also almost similar, okay? A fresher also and a CEO also will have to ultimately have an optimized profile. They will have to create content pieces depending on where they want to go. A fresher, depending on the kind of job and the career path they want to take, they'll create content pieces. A founder will create content pieces depending on the content buckets and the thought leadership they want to build. Like if one founder is there, let's say, for example, the founder of a healthcare company.
Right.
They will primarily want to talk about healthcare, I'm sure, or anything related to pharmaceuticals, anything happening in that space. That will become one content pillar. Second, maybe they want to talk about how they have scaled their company. That could be one topic, right? Talking about team building, work culture, hiring, all of that. The third pillar could be maybe they want to talk about their hobbies outside of work. Or let's say that founder is also a health enthusiast. They can talk about their fitness journey and health related tips on LinkedIn. Ab ye three topics have become like the main content pillars, and taking them as the pillars, they'll build their thought leadership as a founder. For a student, like I said, or a fresher, depending on the career path you want to take, you'll pick three major topics or that one niche you want to talk about because you want to get a job in that niche.
Right.
So till here, almost everything is similar. The major difference is going to be that a founder typically does not have time to do this.
Right.
A fresher has time, with all due respect again. That is why when founders find it difficult to take out time to create a personal brand themselves, they hire people from different agencies like mine, wherein they can be helped to create their personal brand, because the founder does not have time to sit down and create 4 posts in a week, even though it might not seem like a lot of effort. But if they are going to sit down and obviously they do give inputs, their buy-in is also necessary, and that's what we do also. When I'm working with any founder, obviously my team is writing the posts and we are also just giving an overview, but the input has come in from the founder and having a discussion with them, understanding their personality, their traits. So that's one major difference. A fresher will primarily be doing it first hand. Most of the cases, 95% of the times, founders are not doing it themselves. And I think the last thing is, a founder is not just building his or her own brand, they also talk a lot about their company and about what they stand for and what they've built. A fresher is talking about themselves and they are their own brand. It's just a personal brand. When a founder is creating their personal brand, they're still advocating for the company brand.
Absolutely.
They are.
Absolutely.
Indirectly or directly. So I think those are the only major differences, but by and large, they're going to do the same things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's it's kind of a thing like freshers need to follow some certain kind of things, and C-level people also follow a certain kind of thing. Like, but the advantage that C-level people has that they can hire somebody.
They can outsource
They can outsource
that
to build their LinkedIn profile. Right. So what do you think that if we talk about freshers on LinkedIn, they actually make mistake of putting their pictures on LinkedIn, just like as they're putting their pictures on Instagram. They just put their pictures with the goggles or in beaches, having fun, or maybe in hotel rooms. So these are kind of the blunders, mistakes when you are here for the LinkedIn to get jobs, to get into big opportunities, building your personal brand, and they are doing this. Cover photo mein they are putting their beach photo, and profile photo mein they are photo with the goggles, selfies, caption mein they are writing bike racer or Barbie doll, Barbie girl, this type of thing. Like, these are the major blunders. How can they overcome that? How can they just switch to, or how can just they
by not doing it? My answer for this question is very simple. See, I think most people should understand the integrity and the purpose of a platform. हर platform का एक purpose होता है. When you open Instagram, your thought process is नहीं आज job मिलेगी. नहीं ना?
नहीं.
Your thought process is I need to chill. I need a break. Right? In between office hours, between a meeting, I need to scroll. I just need to, refresh myself. Or I want to zone out. Before sleeping, you're scrolling through reels. The intent to open Instagram itself gives you an answer to what outcomes you can get. When you open LinkedIn, you're not thinking time pass करते हैं. पहली बात तो half of the freshers or the youth is not opening it.
They don't even have accounts.
They don't have accounts. When you open it is when जब अक्ल आती है and you get serious की job चाहिए, internship चाहिए.
Placements अच्छी नहीं मिल रही है, आप खुद देखेंगे.
So firstly understand ना, when you know the intent is clear, everybody has the logic. What is that app or platform for? So align what you're putting out there accordingly. No?
Before the podcast thing is happening, you actually told me that you were selected for the LinkedIn program. Can you just give me a little brief about what was all about that and how did you select it or something?
Yeah, sure. So the program was called LinkedIn Creator Accelerator Program. It was launched in the US first in 2021 as a testing program, wherein the top 200 creators on LinkedIn in USA were selected by the LinkedIn team themselves, and they were funded for 2 months. So they were paid by LinkedIn to create content on LinkedIn, and they were also mentored by the top content creators in the US, given equipments to grow as a creator, and they were given access to a lot of invite-only LinkedIn related events and programs that would happen. They were given access to any feature that was rolled out on LinkedIn firsthand. Their feedback was asked for, they were allotted LinkedIn creator managers, etc. There were multiple benefits. That did really well in the US, the pilot model. So they replicated it in India in 2022. And in March 2022, they opened the applications for LinkedIn Creator Accelerator Program India. That was the first cohort. I had applied to it. There was a full application process. You had to apply for it. US mein bhi wahi tha. People were free to apply, and then the top 200 were selected by the LinkedIn team. So in May, we got the results, and I was selected as one of the top 200 LinkedIn creators for the program. And June, we started the program. June to August, 2 months. It was a fully funded program by LinkedIn. We were mentored by people like Ankur Warikoo, Nas Daily, Radhika Gupta, Pooja Dhingra, and a lot of brilliant mentors. We got a lot of equipment access also to grow as a creator, monetization obviously, a lot of, like I said, first-hand access to any features that were being rolled out, feedback on any features we want should come on the platform. In fact, LinkedIn Audio was one of the features, and subtitles that come on the videos now automatically by LinkedIn that our batch had given to the LinkedIn team directly on Google Forms as feedback that this should be a feature. Videos wala to maine bola tha that because for video creators, there should be subtitles that should be generated. and they took that feedback and they implemented it. Now I have a LinkedIn Creator Manager also. So we get a lot of benefits and perks. Any events that are happening in India in the LinkedIn office, obviously we are invited to them, and there's a lot of, I would say, pride that I take in the fact that the platform that I've been creating content on for 3.5 years, when it recognizes you, it's just a good feeling. Because when LinkedIn themselves selects you for a program, right, and for their first and their only fund, uske baad wo program hua nahi. After 2022, they didn't do any repeating batch again. So we're the first and the only cohort, and all 200 of us are so closely knit even today. And in fact, I'm going to be meeting a lot of them this evening, because there's a LinkedIn creator meetup that's happening that we're going to catch up for. And a lot of them are from that Creator Accelerator program. All 200 of us are a very strong knit community. And I can very, I would say, with a lot of surety, say that those 200 people are the top 200 quality creators that you actually have in India. And that's why they made it to the program. So it's always good to also be a part of a network and be amongst people who are doing so well for themselves, and keep learning with them and growing with them. Because we've been in touch ever since. It's almost been 2 years.
Okay, so it's all happened because of your personal branding on LinkedIn.
100%. Yeah.
That's the multi-bucks of having your personal branding.
The effects are endless. The opportunities that you can get and the benefits you will get out of it. Firstly, it's long term. It's not short term. You'll not see it in the short term. You'll start doing personal branding on LinkedIn, working on your LinkedIn profile. 3 months baad, you're not going to get anything. 6 months later, maybe you won't get anything. You have to be patient.
Right.
Yeah.
I personally learned a lot from you today.
I'm glad.
Yeah, a lot about LinkedIn strategies, how to optimize, and then premium thing. So that one advice, if you have to give to all the people, freshers, experienced, anybody who's starting off their personal branding journey on LinkedIn, what advice you want to give to all of them?
See, I feel anybody who's looking to create a strong personal brand on LinkedIn, irrespective of what career stage or stage of life you are at, the only one piece of advice I'd like to give you is, don't try to copy or replicate anybody else's journey. Right? It's very similar to the advice that I gave in general. Don't copy anybody and try to do what other people are doing, because in this era wherein every second person claims to be an influencer or a creator, the only way you can stand out is by not doing what somebody else is doing.
Right.
Again, it's common sense. There's nothing that I've said which is rocket science. It's pure logic and common sense. अगर 1000 लोग एक चीज कर रहे हैं and you are also going to replicate that, you're just going to be amongst that pool of 1000 people. Be authentic, be real, be unapologetically and unabashedly the way you are. Right? Whatever it is, if you have a certain accent, you have a certain tone, you believe in certain things, you feel people might think is outrageous, that is exactly what you should talk about, because that will help you stand out from people, because most people have a filter. Right? So my point is, find your unique point, selling point, your USP. And bank on that, and don't try to replicate. Learn from other people's journey, for sure. I admire so many LinkedIn content creators, and I keep up to pace with their journey and what they're doing, but I don't try to replicate or emulate anything that they're doing. I just learn and take the best and extract it from everybody and build and carve your own journey. That's how you'll be able to stand out and create a personal brand. It's personal. It can't be copied.
Right. It's personal.
Yeah.
I believe that many people would learn this thing from you today. And thank you for coming for our podcast.
My pleasure. And thank you so much for having me over. I've had a great time. You've been an amazing host. And I think all the questions that you've asked were very relevant. And I hope that your audience gets value out of this podcast. They can also feel free to reach out to me even after the podcast if there's any help that I can do. I am very approachable and open, and I like helping and mentoring students in any way that I can, and even working professionals. So I'm not saying it for the sake of it, but even though I have my major audience on LinkedIn, I reply to my LinkedIn DMs the fastest.
Okay.
Right? So the best place to reach out to me is there. And I had a great time doing this podcast. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you, Darya, for coming. And it's a lovely session.
Yeah, I'm glad that we did this. Thank you.
Yeah. So guys, let's meet in the next podcast with great learnings.